Number 8, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring.
Fucking hell, another 3-hour movie? Why are they so long?
Hey, another movie I've seen. Now, Fellowship of the Ring has two very distinct versions. There is the theatrical cut and the extended cut. Now, normally with something like this, I wouldn't actually watch the extended cut, but I already own the extended cut, and I really don't want to have to spend money on the theatrical cut, especially because the theatrical version just isn't as good as the extended version. The extended version is so much better. Also, it gives me an excuse to watch one of my favorite movies again, so, I'm gonna do that.
Whew. That was a rather expected journey. Not unexpected. That's The Hobbit. And to my knowledge, the Hobbit trilogy is not even in the top 250 movies.
What more can I say about the Fellowship of the Ring that hasn't already been said? It's amazing. The whole Peter Jackson trilogy is amazing. It follows the main beats of the book well, but it deviates heavily, and while that may not work for most book adaptations, you gotta remember how massive the Lord of the Rings books are. There are some things left out of the book that I really wish were mentioned here or showed up in some way. My main one being Tom Bombadil. I love Tom Bombadil, but he makes no sense for this movie. It is completely understandable why he's not here, but that doesn't mean I don't want him here. But we're not talking about the differences between the book and the movie, we're talking about the movie as a whole, and what did I think of Fellowship of the Ring? A lot. It is a marvelous sight to behold, and its story flows better than most of anything I've ever seen. The extended cut is wonderful beyond measure, and gives so much more depth to all the characters, and just the story in general. It's just such a good addition. The story follows Frodo Baggins, a hobbit who is sent on a journey by his friend Gandalf the Grey, a wizard, to destroy the One Ring in the fires of Mount Doom. The One Ring is sought after by Sauron, an all-encompassing evil who's really only seen as an eye. There was a deleted scene that actually showed him in his, normal mortal form, but that got cut. Anyway, he's turned Gandalf's old companion Sauron the White, who is also a wizard. Two different characters, by the way, just very similar names. And Sauron has now created an army of what are called Uruk-hai, half-man and half-orc soldiers, sent to kill Frodo and his many other companions. There are also the Ring Wraiths, or Black Riders, who are sent after the ring as well by Sauron. This movie's scale is absolutely massive, and the plot is very intricate, as you can tell, with many moving pieces. There is a lot of characters, too. There's Bilbo, Frodo's uncle, who had the One Ring before him after stealing it from Gollum, who only appears in the movie for, less than 2 minutes. He does become, a main character in the second and third film of the trilogy, but he's not really important in this one. Bilbo also doesn't appear in this trilogy a ton, but was the main character in the book that came before The Lord of the Rings, simply titled The Hobbit. The Hobbit would also get a film trilogy. That's not as good as Lord of the Rings, but I still like it. I am one of few who do. There's Samwise Gamgee, Frodo's gardener, and the man sent by Gandalf to help Frodo in his quest. He is the reason Frodo survives several ordeals in this trilogy. Of course, there's Gandalf the Grey, an extremely powerful wizard, and the group's guide throughout a lot of this movie. He is the wisest of the group and the one to start their journey. He does a lot of kick-ass stuff in this film, from fighting Sauron, to fighting a Balrog, to having more sass than all of the other characters combined.
What are you going to do then?
Knock your head against these doors, Peregrine Took!
There's Merry and Pippin, who serve as the film's comic relief. Merry is pretty chill in this movie, and mostly serves as the brains between the two of them, though there is very little to go around. And Pippin does a lot of stupid stuff, and is very stupid in general. Unlike most comic relief, though, in movies, however, these guys actually work extremely well, and don't come off as annoying in the slightest. They're basically just two dudes along for the ride. They have no idea what they've gotten themselves into, and that's probably the funniest part of this entire thing. There's Aragorn, also known as Strider, who is the first person the four hobbits meet on their journey, and he protects them through a lot of it. Without Aragorn, they would all be dead. He's also a very well-written, pretty deep character with love, loss, and victory throughout the entire trilogy. He's probably my favorite of all of the characters in this trilogy in general. There's Boromir, who probably shows the most emotion outside of the hobbits in this movie, and while wanting the ring for noble reasons, still wants it too much, and can't be super trusted, even if he has good intentions. Finally, there's Gimli and Legolas. They both hate each other because elves and dwarves do not get along, however they grow a friendship throughout the films. It is truly spectacular. Seriously, these guys have some pretty stellar moments in the second and third movies. They do some pretty funny stuff. Yeah, that's a lot of characters in one movie. I'm leaving out a lot of them also. Galadriel, Elrond, Arwen. I barely even touched the Ring Wraith, Saruman the White, or even Sauron for that matter, the main villain. I could spend hours explaining this whole movie, but I won't. I've already spent too much time talking about the characters, so let's talk about other things. The story is amazing, which makes sense. It's based on one of the greatest book series ever made. It flows very well for a nearly 3.5-hour experience. There's a lot of big set pieces, from the Shire in the beginning of the film to the kingdom of Rivendell to the deep mines of Moria where Gimli's fellow dwarves resided for many years. This movie is massive. It's a miracle it turned out as good as it did. This is the first special effects heavy film on the list, and it is wild how well the special effects from 2001 hold up. Like, wow. It perfectly melds practical and digital in a way that films would never touch nowadays. This is the last of a breed of movies where miniatures, physical sets, and CGI were combined in harmony. It is absolutely insane how good this thing looks. Like, this is a miniature. That is a physical miniature that actually exists in the real world. They built that. The little orcs milling about are CGI, but the things around them are almost entirely real. It's insane. This is also a miniature. Like, holy shit, it looks good. This whole movie is beautiful. Sure, there's a few things that look off. The segment where Frodo is drifting in and out of consciousness on his way to Rivendell has been memed to death. The cave troll is blatantly CGI, but I can forgive most of it. Overall, though, this movie rocks. It's got it all. And the score by Howard Shore is fantastic. Seriously, a lot of these movies on the list have fantastic scores. Does this movie deserve its reviews?
Yeah, I'm not stupid.
This film is great. Very few can deny its impressiveness. It's well-paced, well-written, and well-acted. It's a perfect film. The extended version is even more perfect than the theatrical version. So much is done in this film to make it as good as it is. There are very few movies that still fill me with childlike wonder and joy, and this is one of them. Every time I watch it, I notice something new, and if you're going to watch a fantasy movie, this is probably one of the best ones to watch. Number 6, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King.
Oh, hey, look, a bonus review.
Number 5.5, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Yeah, I decided to watch The Two Towers before I watched Return of the King, as Return of the King is the third movie in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I haven't watched any of these films in well over a year. I understand the basic plot of The Two Towers, but I figured it would make sense to rewatch it, so I can understand the final film in the trilogy a lot better. The Two Towers almost made it onto the list, as it sits at number 12 on IMDb's top 250 movies of all time. I would also say it's the weakest of the trilogy too on a rewatch. Not bad by any means, god no, again, it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. But it definitely feels like the middle of a trilogy, you know? It's building up a lot of stuff, although there are plenty of good things within. It's not all set up. The Battle of Helm's Deep and the flooding of Isengard are two of my favorite scenes in all of Lord of the Rings, if not in all of film. Also, Gollum is in this thing, and he gets a ton of screen time. I love Gollum. It is wild how well his effects hold up visually. You do not get the feeling that he's just a pile of CG surrounding the characters. The filmmakers and VFX artists really took pains to make sure he was interacting with his surroundings as much as possible. This scene with him splashing through the water still looks fantastic. The film's plot, if you're wondering, is basically Merry and Pippin are kidnapped by orcs, escape, and then end up being some tree people who spend most of the movie just bickering with each other until they finally decide to attack Isengard. Gandalf is reborn into Gandalf the White, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, and Gandalf meet King Theoden, and break the curse that Sauron has put him under, turning him from a shrill old prune under the control of Sauron's goon named Grima Wormtongue into an actual functioning member of human society, and now they all have to fight a bunch of Uruk-hai at the Fortress of Helm's Deep. And meanwhile, while this is going on, Sam and Frodo and Gollum get captured by Boromir's brother Faramir because Gollum is guiding them to Mordor and they end up at the wrong place at the wrong time. This movie has a lot of moving parts, and that's not even all of it. There's elf shenanigans I never even mentioned. This movie is fantastic, though, and doesn't feel bloated in the slightest. But I do feel like some characters really get left behind. Gandalf is just kind of gone for the back half of the movie doing Gandalf shit. Frodo and Sam kind of just exist, in my opinion, so we can learn more about Faramir and his father Denethor's squabbles, and Gollum is somehow the heart of the film. Seriously, he has some wild character development. I think Merry and Pippin's side quest with the trees is kind of long-winded and boring in spots. Like, I get why it's here, because we need to build up how indecisive the trees are with each other, and it has some great tension in it on the first viewing. But on subsequent watches, it's kind of tedious. Considering how little they take up the movie, however, it's not that bad. I'd rather just have okay scenes with Merry and Pippin than not have scenes with them at all, you know? Does this movie deserve the love it gets from fans and critics? I think so. The whole trilogy is so darn good. How could it not? I mean, it's The Two Towers.
Okay, bonus review over.
Finally, I'll have finished the Lord of the Rings trilogy once I watch Return of the King, the longest part of this video to get through. All 3 movies combined are 11 hours long. I don't know how some of you maniacs marathon these in one sitting, plus the Hobbit trilogy. Now granted, I watched the extended cuts of these movies, but let's face it, with Lord of the Rings, it was either go big or go home, and again, you maniacs go big or go home. I have never once seen you mention watching the theatrical cuts. You always talk about the extended cuts. How do you people do it? Much like the previous 2 movies in the trilogy, I've seen Return of the King, and I was very excited to watch it again. And it was amazing. This is one of the greatest films I've ever witnessed. This is by far the best of the trilogy. Visually and story-wise, just like the previous 2 movies, Return of the King is magnificent, telling a story like no other. Every scene has a purpose, and the extended edition proves that sometimes bigger is better. This beast is over 4 hours long, the longest of either the Lord of the Rings or Hobbit trilogy movies in general. But that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it, because I did. This is really good. But unlike most of the movies I've watched so far, where I have a appreciated them and enjoyed them as a film. I don't really want to watch them all over again just yet, at least for a little while. I want to wait, you know? I feel like I could put the disc back on and just rewatch Return of the King start to finish, no issue. It's that good. The story continues where the Two Towers left off. Well, actually, no. It starts with a flashback to how Gollum got the One Ring, but then it starts where the last one left off. After defeating their foes in Isengard, Gandalf takes Saruman's Palantir, which is this crystal ball thing that's connected with a whole bunch of other crystal ball things, and one of them is owned by Sauron, who can, like, see whoever's using the crystal ball things. Anyway, they take it back to base, and Pippin gets curious, looks into it, and now Sauron thinks that he has the ring, and so Pippin and Gandalf go to Minas Tirith. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are still with King Theoden, and his armies, along with Merry, who joins the ranks, because he wants to fight, despite being just a little guy. Also, Sam and Frodo are still being led around by Gollum, who's trying to kill them by sending them into the lair of Shelob, this giant spider, who is absolutely horrifying, by the way. Seriously, who thought this was a good idea? I'm going to have nightmares. I have to sleep with my teddy bear now because of this. Also, there's Faramir and Boromir's dad, Denethor, who's just losing his mind the entire movie. This is where the famous tomato meme comes from that fans can't stop referencing. These movies have so many memes, by the way. One does not simply visitors, well-wishers, and distant relations. Why shouldn't I keep it? They're taking the hops to Isengard. Meat's back on the menu. Potatoes. Fighting alongside a friend. Where was Gondor when Westfold fell? Less than half of what I'd hoped for. And like 1,000 more. I just wanted an excuse to mention all the memes real quick. I think all the characters in this movie are handled really well with all their arcs. Eowyn, who is related to King Theoden, has some really good moments of just being a badass. She beheads a fucking Nazgul, which is wild. Although she does get kind of forgotten about towards the end, though. Like, she's there, but once the big fight at Minas Tirith is over, she gets like one more scene and then shows it for a quick bit at the end. Thankfully, she actually gets a scene, though, after the battle in the extended cut. Her and Faramir really just dip after Minas Tirith and then show up at the end for like a split second. Much like Eowyn's disappearance, this film has issues. And by that, I mean I think Saruman's lackey Wormtongue turns on him a little too quickly at the beginning of the movie. I think there should have been one short little bit of Wormtongue having like a moment of doubt with Sauron maybe, and that's why he turned so quickly, because like there was something before. But other than that, I got no issues. This thing is basically perfect. Some might say the special effects don't hold up super well. Yeah, CGI from 2003 isn't going to be perfect, but it still works. It was insane for the time, and even today it's still kind of insane that this was 2003 CGI. CGI in 2003 looked good, but this blew everything out of the water. The scale of this movie is huge, and the practical effects are huge too, specifically when Aragorn calls upon the armies of the dead in the cave they're hanging out in. That is a miniature, and those are a lot of tiny real miniature skulls. They are real. This was built and exists and is a gosh darn marvel of engineering. This movie looks amazing. The action scenes are second to none. Legolas climbing on the side of the Oliphant is just wicked. That elf has never done anything more badass. Well, except for that one scene in the Battle of the Five Armies. Yeah, you know the one where he's like hanging upside down from a giant bat while beheading fucking orcs. That is metal as fuck. Also, Gimli has a lot of time to shine this movie. He does some fun stuff. Him being terrified of ghosts is hilarious. A lot of people say the ending is way too long. I don't think so. Like, yeah, it's long, but like, it's not that bad. This movie deserves all the praise it gets, just like the last two. This is one of the best things I've ever seen. It's amazing. I don't think any fantasy film will ever surpass it. It would be amazing if anything came close in the next 10 or even 20 years. It is that good. I wonder what could even be above it on the list, though. I mean, it's gotta be good if it's got better reviews than Return of the King, right?